Hey everybody, welcome to the Fake Football. I'm Greg Smith at Greg Sauce. This is our first draft video of the 2015 NFL season. I'm joined by none other than Jeff Dumont. What's up, Jeff?
Hey, how's it going?
Pretty good,
Thanks
man.
for having me.
Yep, anytime. We have joined a league together here from the ESPN mock draft lobby. It is mock draft Monday, from what I'm told. I have the 5th pick. What pick do you have? 8th pick?
I have the 8th pick. Yep.
I have some inside information. You are looking to do a little zero RB in this draft. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm gonna try to go all zero RB. As in probably not taking an RB at least until around 4. You know.
Okay.
So I'm gonna target probably Gronkowski at number 8 pick overall. If not that, then one of the lead, wide receivers. But yeah, let's see how my team winds up.
So you like Gronk more than the elite wide receivers, like more than your Dez Bryants, your Demaryius Thomases, etc.?
Yes, definitely. Because I think like the difference in points from Gronk to the second guy, it's such a drastic drop off, and you get that weekly advantage with Gronkowski. Whereas, yeah, I mean, there's like a cluster of like 4 or 5 wide receivers, and you don't know which one is going to be number 1 overall. I feel like whichever receiver I get in the second round, number 17 overall, will be just as good as Antonio Brown or better, hopefully.
So you think there's more safety to picking Gronk in the first round because you essentially, like, you're stating that you know that he's going to finish higher than, Kelsey, Jimmy Graham, every other tight end?
Yeah, I think that's pretty safe to say. Yeah, I think he's going to be quite a bit better than a lot of other guys. And yeah, and you're really in the first round, you want a high floor and you want relatively low risk. And if you can get a weekly advantage on top of that, then I don't know. I think that's a trifecta. I would take Gronk as high as like number 2 or 3 overall, honestly. I would hate having a top 4 pick, put it that way. I don't want any part of the top running backs. Which running backs would you take number 1?
Number 1, I would probably take AP first. At least that's how I have it ranked. I have my top running backs: Peterson, Bell, then Charles, then Lynch, I believe. I'd have to double check. I do like the 4th and 5th spots because you kind of just get whatever running back falls there, and then you get a better second round pick. I do like drafting towards the end of the first round as well. Just because, again, sometimes you can just luck into like a scraps running back. Like Marshawn Lynch at pick number 8 makes me a lot more excited than Marshawn Lynch at pick number 4.
Yeah.
With that said, I don't really know what I want to do here. I've dabbled with a bunch of different strategies in my mock draft so far. This is the first one I've recorded, and I've mocked mostly 2 quarterback leagues. So one thing I know is I'm not going to be taking a quarterback in the first round or the first maybe 8 rounds. Who the hell knows? But yeah, I mean, look at number 5 here. I'm kind of hoping Le'Veon falls to me. I would take Lynch there. I would also take one of the elite receivers too. Like I'm in on Dez and Antonio Brown. Like those guys are good and worth a first round pick in my opinion.
You can always steal Gronk from me.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I actually don't like Gronk as much as you do. I'd have him more as a second round value, if only because while I do believe he represents like a sizable, advantage over the rest of his position. And of course, I'm left here looking at all the dudes don't want.
You got Le'Veon though.
No, Le'Veon just got drafted.
At number 4. Never mind.
So I mean, there's my top 4. If I'm drafting by my rankings, I would take Lacy here, and I'll do it. But I'm not really a big Lacy guy. Just the fact that I have him ranked 5th among running backs, I have a feeling most people probably have him over Lynch this year, but I don't know. I don't hate him. Obviously, I just made the pick, but
I like Lacy a lot. I think it's a high floor for him. He's in such a premier offense. That offense is probably going to score more points than anybody else. Yeah, I don't know.
I just worry that their passing offense is so good that he's not going to get as many touchdowns as a team with a more dedicated like goal line running game.
Right.
I mean, Green Bay just has so many weapons, and they can score from so deep out that I worry that Lacy, while he probably will rack up a ton of yards this year, like if he only finishes with like 7 touchdowns, that wouldn't surprise me.
Oh yeah, that would be a bummer. You would think he would at least score like 10, but yeah, there's always enough like that, Especially with Aaron Rodgers, he'll like run one in from the 1 yard line too every now and then, which is annoying.
John Kuhn gets a lot of love in Green Bay for some ungodly reason, and I mean I understand that like he's good at punching it in from 1 yard out, like he's been doing it for years, but in terms of fantasy, I don't care about that at all. I want Eddie Lacy to get all those carries, and he does it.
Yeah.
You know.
Right.
I mean, I don't mind if he's there at 5 and all those other running backs are gone. I'm still taking a running back in the first round for the most part. If it's Lacy, I think after Lacy, I would consider C.J. Anderson, and then I'm basically on the wide receiver plan. At least in one quarterback leagues.
You like how Gronk just got taken from me right before?
I actually do like that because now we get to see which wide receiver you like the most.
Exactly.
Who isn't Antonio Brown?
I don't like Antonio Brown as. Oh yeah, he just got taken. Okay, so I think I am going to, since I'm going to stick with that zero RB strategy, I'm going to go with Demaryius. I think that's he's safe. He just got paid. They lost a few targets. They lost Welker. They lost the other Thomas, Julius Thomas.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know. I think Demaryius is very safe to get 100 catches, about 1,400 yards, 10 touchdowns. I mean, he's rock solid. So,
yeah. Dez, and Antonio Brown are, I think, the 3 can't-miss receivers just based on volume alone. Right. I'll take any of those guys in the first round and be happy about it.
Yeah.
I think I have Dez ranked overall number 1, and he's probably the guy I would have taken if I was in your shoes, but I can't argue with the Demaryius pick.
I was thinking Dez too. I don't know. I'm thinking that Dez has come off such a good season that he has no other. I think he's going to regress slightly. He's still going to probably be a shoe-in for top 3 or top 5.
Yeah,
out, but
I think he can still get better, and that's why I like him, because I feel like last year was a great year, but I don't think that was his ceiling. I think he's got room to improve, and now that like DeMarco Murray's gone, like Witten is a year older, I just think they're going to pass a little bit more than they did last year, and I don't know. I'm all in on Dez. He's my number 1 wide receiver.
Yeah. I mean, you can't beat that talent, actually.
No.
Actually, the year when Dez and Demaryius got drafted back-to-back, I think that was like, 5 years ago, I think. I thought that Denver was so dumb for passing on Dez Bryant and taking Demaryius. So there's that, you know.
Yeah.
So I think
that's just a draft lesson in general, right? Like if you're, maybe somebody who's not as good of or as flashy of a football player, but someone who has like the athleticism and the general talent to eventually become one of those, elite dudes.
Right.
Like, I mean, just look at Allen Robinson this year. He's getting so much hype based on like measurables alone, but it's not like he was, a highly touted rookie last year.
Yeah, no, not at all. I mean, he was just part of that awesome draft class last year, pretty much. Oh man, there's one more. If I can get Dez,
I like how we both Dez being one pick away from you to go back to back. Let's say he gets. Yep, of course he gets picked. So who are you taking now?
Yeah, he did. Okay, well,
I mean,
I'll go to hell. I would
Jordy, AJ Green, or probably would be the top of most people's draft boards at this point at wide receiver.
Right. I'm gonna be the idiot that takes a quarterback number 1.
Oh, you monster! You took Andrew Luck.
I took Andrew Luck in the second round.
You are so dumb.
I know. Well, I said I wanted to go 0 RB, and I'm just doing it for the sake of this show. Usually, right there, I would actually take Jeremy Hill.
Okay.
In a pay league, I would have taken Jeremy Hill right there, honestly. But yeah. So see how my team winds up.
Oh man!
Since this is free, then I'll take Andrew Luck because he is the best quarterback. So
you can't think that that's a good pick in terms of fantasy football, though, right? Taking a quarterback in the second round, there's just so much value at quarterback, like in the later rounds, in all of the later rounds.
I agree. There is a lot of somebody just talk crap. Taking a quarterback this early is crazy.
I think am also saying that.
You are saying you should. Damn it, I suck so bad. No, I think there is a week-to-week advantage with Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck and Aaron Rodgers. I think Luck has a little higher upside because he's not really injury-prone whatsoever. And I don't know. You're getting points every single week, and I think there's a big drop-off from these top 2 guys to the third guy. And just like Gronk, you're getting that weekly advantage. I mean, even if it's 1 or 2 points a week, that's what you want in the early rounds. So I'll take it. I'm okay with it, realizing that there is a lot of great value later on. But I also think there's a lot of great value at wideout and tight end and running back later on. So I think every strategy can work.
Yeah, there's value everywhere if you pick the right players and if you avoid the right players. I do think that one of the best ways to get value, or the easiest ways to get value and set yourself up for a successful draft, is to wait on quarterback. Right. I'm not saying that Andrew Luck won't be better than 95% 5% of QBs, and in fact, probably 99%. I think Aaron Rodgers is the only guy who has the talent and the weapons to challenge him for the number one QB spot. But
Right.
you have to invest so much draft capital to get those guys. Like a second round pick, like you could have just had, Jeremy Hill or even Mike Evans. Like those are guys that, because they're at a position that requires more starters, you need to address them earlier. I mean, one man's opinion, of course, but there's no way I'm taking a QB that early.
Right. I think that's the correct way of thinking, honestly.
And it's one of the reasons why I continue to advocate for 2 quarterback leagues, is because it actually introduces more strategy in terms of how early you take quarterbacks.
Yeah, definitely. I think a 2 quarterback league will make quarterbacks just as valuable as running backs. Like really, I think within the first 3 rounds, you should see at least 10 quarterbacks go off the board.
That's pretty typical.
Right.
So, just recapping my pick there, I took Alshon Jeffrey in the second round. The only other guy I was really considering in that spot was AJ Green, who is still available.
Nice.
Not going to make it back to me. I think those guys are pretty close, and I generally tend to slant towards Jeffrey, if only because the Bengals' schedule terrifies me. I think that them and Andy Dalton in particular are set up for a disappointing season. I have a feeling AJ Green's still going to get his, again, based on volume. And he is like very talented and very good, don't get me wrong. But I'd rather bet on an offense that I think is a little undervalued right now in Chicago, where they did just lose Brandon Marshall. And now Jeffrey is clearly the guy. He is their number one receiver. And I don't think they can afford to do anything other than treat him that way. I think he's going to get a ton of targets, and he's a great red zone threat. I think he's in line for a second round value, and that's why I took him.
I completely agree with you. I've been taking Alshon Jeffrey in the second round in a lot of my MFL 10s, and he's just going to be a target monster, especially in Adam Gase's offense. He's essentially playing Demaryius Thomas's role. I think you're going to see a lot similar numbers with Alshon that Demaryius has gotten in the last couple of years. I mean, yeah, Cutler's no Manning, but at the same time, there's not really any other targets going around there. I mean, Martellus Bennett's pretty good, and Eddie Royal looks like a pretty good sleeper. He's pretty undervalued, but Adam Gase is just one of those offensive geniuses. So I definitely I agree with you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Alshon. Mean, I do think that setting that high floor is important in these early rounds, but I also want a lot of touchdown upside with these early picks. And if I'm taking a wide receiver, I want a guy who's big, who's a good red zone threat. If I'm taking a running back, I want somebody who's, going to get the bulk of the carries and also the goal line carries. And with that in mind, I'm back on the clock here. And, I am generally an advocate for multiple running backs in the first 3 rounds, or at least the first 4 rounds. But I do think there's more value here to either taking Mike Evans or T.Y. Hilton over the available running backs. Do you have any thoughts on what you would do here in my spot? With Lacey and Jeffrey rostered already.
Oh, for sure. I'm right in the same lines. Hilton, I like Hilton a lot just because he's in a contract here. He's going to get paid, probably not from the Colts. And Mike Evans seems like a stud too. I also really like Brandon Cooks.
Yeah. Outside of a PPR league, I wouldn't consider Cooks in this spot. And this is, we should mention, a standard 12-team ESPN league. I'm going to take Evans. Once again, I like the touchdown upside a little bit more than Hilton. I do worry that Hilton is fighting for targets a little bit more than he was last year.
Right.
Andre Johnson's there. They still have both tight ends. They have Frank Gore now. They have the 2 young guys in Moncrief and Dorsett. There's just a lot of mouths to feed there in Indianapolis. I do think Hilton's going to be fine, but if it's him versus Evans, I'm taking Evans.
Yeah, Evans is clearly a better talent. I agree with you. Hilton, he just went right there. Damn it.
Yeah, is that who you were targeting?
Yeah, I was, but I figured he was going. He was number 23 overall. All right, it's my turn.
Yep, you're on the clock.
All right. Well, I'm going to take my boy. I think Brandon Cooks is pretty much a shoo-in for almost 100 catches and, I don't know, somewhere around 1,300 yards. And in that kind of offense, I think he's still going to get 8 touchdowns or so. He's just straight up faster than everyone else. I like him. I think he's going to be a lot like Emmanuel Sanders was last year, like just a stud top 10 wideout. and he's just ready to break out. I think he was one of the best, most talented wideouts from that awesome draft class last year, and he got hurt. He got banged up a little bit. He showed some potential, and without Jimmy Graham and was it Kenny Stills? I mean, there's a lot of talents to go. There's a lot of targets to go around. So Brandon Cooks. But you're right. I like him. I like him a lot more. Welcome to my team. I like him a lot more in PPRs. Right. I'll take him. Yeah.
I do think that even though this isn't PPR, you are rewarded a little bit more for taking wide receivers because you only need 2, and then there's a flex spot, of course, that can be either a wide receiver, running back, or a tight end in these ESPN standard leagues. And if you can just lock up 2, stud wide receivers in the early round, your RB2 is generally going to be a question mark guy in some capacity, one way or the other. Same with your flex RB. If your running back 3 is going to be filling your flex spot, I think if you take away the question marks at wide receiver by taking them early, you can kind of just live with the inherent question marks at running back in the 4th, 5th, and 6th rounds versus the 3rd and 4th rounds. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Running backs are always going to be the question mark, like you said. They're always going to be high risk, so might as well get some high risk, high reward guys in the mid rounds, and just get a whole bunch of them. When I go 0 RB, I usually like taking at least about 6 running backs and hope that 2 of them bust out. Like in our league last year, in our main league, which I finished better than I ever had before, I didn't take a running back till about round 9, and it was Lamar Miller, and I just kind of got lucky with him. Then later in round 18 or so, I took Jeremy Hill, and but I actually drafted I think 9 running backs in the last year. So yep. I mean, and about 6 of them were busts, but all you need is 1 or 2 to break out and have good management skills in season. Yep. All right, so
back to you.
All right, well, going 0 RB, but I see Lamar Miller just chilling there. Speaking of,
he's your boy.
He is my boy. I do love him.
This is the 4th round as well, so I don't think you can.
4th round. Yeah.
I mean, at what point does 0 RB typically stop for you? Is it round 4, round 5?
Usually round 4. 0 RB doesn't really mean that. I don't think that you have to wait on running backs until round 8 or 9. I think it's mainly just not going against the grain, because most people will take running backs round 1, 2, and 3, and trying to get values at wideout or tight end or quarterback.
There is method to waiting on or passing on the running backs, if only to push the ADP of those running backs down. Because if you're not taking that the highest ranked running back, that means somebody later than you will, which means that some other player is going to fall a few spots. There's this cascade effect that happens, right?
Right. Yeah. Definitely. All right. That being said, I'm going to take Lamar Miller as my RB1. I like him a lot this year. Doesn't look like he's having any competition. Ajayi looks like he kind of sucks.
He's also hurt.
And that offense, he's hurt, yeah. And there's a bunch of other guys, I don't know. And I think he's going to get a lot of catches. He's going to be the workhorse, and Miami's offense will be much better this year. So I think Miller will actually do better than he was last year. And he really didn't get that job until about week 4, because Noshawn was really the starting running back last year. So yeah, I think Lamar Miller is a shoo-in to get a top 15. If he's healthy all year, he should be at least a top 15 running back. So at least I have a relatively decent upside, or a floor, I should say, with Lamar Miller.